Hello, and welcome to our Dragon Con Theater and Performing Arts unofficial uh, panel on the Broadway musical Six. I'm Sarah Rose. I am the stage manager, I guess we'll call me, of this group here. And I am not joined today by my right hand man, the leader of our group, Gary, tonight. But I am joined by these amazing panelists. Now, before we have them introduce themselves, I do want to say, as actors, thespians, entertainers, we do stand in solidarity with the WGA and the SAG actors unions in their current strikes going on. We hope that things can come to fair and equitable terms soon. And until then, we stand with them. And that out of the way, if we could start, Caitlin, you go first.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. Musical theater nerd. Love doing cosplays from it. Currently have a Six Anne Boleyn, and then I'm building a Cleaves for my friend.
Yay! How about you, Rachel?
Hey, I'm Rachel. I am probably one of the biggest musical theater nerds you're ever going to meet. I may or may not be going to Dragon Con this year. It's still very iffy, but on my cosplay bucket list for sometime in the future is building either Anne Boleyn or Catherine Howard from Six.
Awesome. Definitely. How about you, Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Denham. I am not a huge cosplayer. I'm still kind of getting into it, but I am a huge history and definitely historical musical fan. So former history teacher, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. And I should be at Dragon Con. We'll see. I know my husband will be, but yeah. We'll see.
Okay. How about you, Lauren?
I'm Lauren. I basically grew up backstage at a theater where my mom did costumes. So theater's always been in my life. And now I do computer work to pay for my need to travel and see all of the theater. And I will be at Dragon Con.
Yay. Okay. Well, Dragon Con, I don't know if you guys have seen, but our little, I guess, group theme this year is actually Six. I don't have like the little graphic. Unfortunately, I can figure out how to put it on stream. But we have our group ribbon this year that is Six themed. It is on our Facebook group page. So make sure if you're not already a member of that you go check it out. Looks like we might have just lost Rachel, but I'm sure she'll be back. Anyway, we're going to start with our first discussion point, which is Six has so many things that have drawn in its queendom, as we like to call ourselves, whether that be the album, the outfits, the cast, just the premise, the girl power musical. What was that for you? What drew you into Six? And Caitlin, go ahead.
So I think what I first heard was one of the songs. I was just listening to like a mix of Broadway songs and I heard it. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So then just kind of like started watching clips and I was like, ooh, this is really cool. I like this one. And the costumes are just amazing. Like so cool.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. How about you, Lauren?
I heard about it when it basically went viral during the pandemic and thought it was a really neat concept and got the album and then haven't stopped listening to it. And then I really love all of the costumes and the whole concept of how it's staged and then how all of the characters are female and then all of the musicians they have on stage are female as well.
Definitely. How about you, Rachel? What drew you to Six?
Well, I have to give a bit of backstory first because I have an older sister, and when we were both younger, she discovered the Six Wives and Henry VIII, and she, of course, being big sister, bossing around little sister, she told me all about them. Like literally, I could not go to sleep until I would correctly recite the order of the wives and their fates. And of course, I didn't know about the rhyme back then. That would have been so helpful when I was a little kid. But anyways, that would have just started a lifelong interest in all things Tudor-ish. And I remember my first reaction to Six was the same reaction I had when I first heard about Hamilton. It was a case of, that's interesting. Let me give this a try. So I discovered it the way probably everybody else did with the original concept recording, and just absolutely loved it. And it's and actually
oh no.
Well, I guess that's how it is. Sarah, why don't you go ahead while we're waiting for Rachel?
No worries. So I am a huge history nerd. I pretty much, when I was getting my history degree in college, I pretty much majored in British history, which wasn't really what you could do, but I took all their British history classes, and I was obsessed with the Tudors, read like historical fiction. So one day, my husband and I were driving back from visiting family in Tennessee back to Georgia, and my husband, big theater nerd, former Broadway actor, all that kind of stuff. He had Broadway musical mix on from Amazon Music, and one of the songs came on. I can't remember which one. So me and my ADHD brain started Googling it, and I was like, oh, it's about those Tudor wives. Oh my God. So that was the end of everything. It was like, I'm done. And ever since, I've been obsessively listening to, especially the live Broadway album that they put out. So.
All right. Well, and I do want to say, I do see some of us, some people are watching live. I would love if you guys also put your experiences, your answers to the questions. We highly encourage audience participation. So please leave us comments. We would love to hear from you. That being said, and if any of you have caught our last panel, which was our Broadway band battle, there was quite the debate whether or not Six was actually a Broadway musical or just a rock concert masquerading as a Broadway musical. And I'll be honest, I made the argument that Six was most definitely a Broadway musical. But what do you guys think? Lauren, why don't you go first?
I definitely think it's a Broadway musical. Yes, it does tell a story, and it is through the genre of like more of a rock concert, but it is definitely a Broadway musical.
Definitely. Okay. How about you, Sarah? What do you think?
I have to agree. The whole thing about using the idea of these historical women in a rock concert is totally just what Broadway musicals will do. I mean, if you're looking at the definition of it, it's like, hey, here you go. I mean, what, cabaret is basically just a cabaret show, and nobody argues about whether or not it's a Broadway musical. So
definitely.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Rachel? What do you think? Do you think it's a Broadway musical?
I think it is, in the same way that Cats and A Chorus Line are. I mean, both of those are very loose storylines, and they both won the Tony for Best Musical. So I would say putting them in the same they're all literally in the same category as far as the concept musical.
Definitely, I agree. And how about you, Caitlin?
Same thing. I mean, it's not just songs back to back to back. You have things in between. You've got, all the different conversations and them arguing. So it's not like just like, song after song after song, which, is what more I associate with a rock concert versus theater.
Definitely. Yeah, no. And if you've ever listened to the songs are part of this story. They tell their story. And that's what's so important about Six. So that being said, okay, what ex-wife's story from Six specifically surprised you the most, or challenged the preconceived notions that you might have gotten from history class during the thing, during the musical. Caitlin, why don't you answer that first?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I love Cleves' story, like, because she's just so awesome. Like, you know, just like, well, you know, I don't need him anyway.
Yeah.
I'll do my own thing. Thanks.
She's the queen of the castle. All right. And how about you, Rachel? Did you any of the queen's stories surprise you?
I think out of all of the queens, and I would say probably Catherine Howard surprised me the most, because she's always been sort of controversial. Like, she's always been deemed out of the group the slut queen, which is really unfair, because she was 15 years old. She was 15 years old at the time, and there's all these grown men taking advantage of her. So I think that's what really, her song really brings that to life. They're taking advantage of her, and they're all above her station. And that's probably what redeemed her for me. It's just finding out that, hey, it was a bad situation to be in, and she was trying to make the most of it.
Definitely. How about you, Sarah?
I just, knowing a lot of stuff about the wives and everything, probably I have to say the way that Catherine Howard was approached, that they were showing she was a victim, especially, like, honestly, she had the saddest story out of all of them, because she was so young and was abused for so long. So that whole thing kind of brings out back, taking back the narrative of her being the slut, like Rachel said, and showing that she deserved better. There you go. She deserved better. So,
how about you, Lauren?
I also agree with Catherine Howard. When I did history, it was Catherine of Aragorn, and then Anne Boleyn, and then, oh yeah, he was married 4 other times. And it was just kind of glossed over. And then, one was ugly, one was a slut, and then one, lived longer than him. And that was kind of sort of it. So
1 year.
So
was made.
Definitely. So we got actually a comment here, and it's I've done a lot of research on the wives, but I'm not familiar with the musical yet. I'm very intrigued by her story approach. Does anyone want to comment on this particular, because it is definitely about her story? Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
So yeah, like what the comment said, had a lot of research too, and the fact that it was telling history again from the women who are constantly, we just know them. I mean, we just knew them by the rhyme, and they bring that up. So if you haven't listened to the musical, but a lot about the history of these women, honestly, for me, it made it so much better. I was more connected and finding the nuances and everything in the songs, which testifies to the genius of the writers. So
definitely. Now, one of the things is the parallels that are made to these queens. They lived over 500 years ago, and the very modern struggles of women today, they are very central to the plot of the show. Do you think that helps people connect more with the actual historical women that they represent? What do you think, Lauren?
Oh, I definitely think it makes it way easier to connect. It makes them much less like this vague concept and much more like real people that, I could have, seen walking down the street yesterday, or, go to work with, or read an article in a newspaper about. It makes them much more real.
Yeah. How about you, Rachel? What do you think?
I would say it's definitely a good introduction as far as because my internet blinked out when I was first talking about how I'd been introduced to the show. But last year, the Berlin tour came to the theater that I work at, and there were so many teenage girls and so many young girls, and you could tell with a lot of them, this was their first introduction to the idea of to the queens and the six wives of Henry VIII. So I think that it's definitely relevant with today's audiences. And I'll say one thing I remember, especially in the day in this time that we're still dealing with the Me Too movement. A lot of the time, after Catherine Howard's song, there was just always this stunned silence in the theater. Just somebody realized, oh, that happened almost over 500 years ago, and now it's still relevant today. So I'd say definitely.
Yeah. No. How about you, Caitlin? What do you think?
Well, and like just some of the ways they do it, like with House of Holbein, presenting it like being on a dating app, you know, and the same thing. It's very well done the way they've made it to where it's like, oh yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, Sarah?
So I haven't been able to see it live yet. It's coming to Knoxville in the fall, so fingers crossed. But just listening to songs, which I know a lot of people are doing, that's how they interact with it. Just being able to hear what they're talking about and going, oh, I know exactly how that feels, or I know someone who has felt like that. Plus the way the music is done, that you can go, oh, that sounds like that person. Then yeah, I mean, like what Aragon is completely Beyonce in her Lemonade era. Yeah, so I think was a brilliant way to connect these women over 500 years to women today who deal with the same crap. We still deal with the same crap.
Yeah.
So
no, and I will say I definitely think as somebody who has always loved the story of Henry VIII's wives. I mean, I'm going to be honest. My favorite was always Anne Boleyn. And I mean, I grew up in a time when, you know, you were reading books about her and, you know, you had the Tudors show on and stuff like that. And all of that was very like male focused. And that is something that is no longer the case with this show. And I think that does help me connect more. And believe it or not, I find myself connecting more with Catherine Howard after this show because, you know, they present the argument in such a different way for these characters and in ways that probably people haven't thought of before. That being said, the show, if you can tell it, even if you haven't seen it, it is from the music in and of itself. The show is very silly and sometimes kind of campy, and it does definitely market itself as a feminine-based show. However, the stories themselves, the way they tell their stories, it kind of shows that maybe the women aren't completely blameless in all of this. And, you know, it makes me wonder, does that hurt the feminine-based perspective, I guess, that they're trying to present? Like, for example, Anne's story. Like, what was I supposed to do? Like, and the sorry, not sorry. Do you think that kind of thing hurts her story part of it? And Caitlin, I know you're a big Anne Boleyn fan, so what do you think?
I think it kind of brings a balance to things. So it's like, we're so used to the male-dominated point of view. And yes, this gives us a more female-dominated point of view, but it also kind of balances it out. So it's not like exclusively the female point of view. So it gives you both sides, whereas most history is just like, well, this is what happened from the guy's point of view.
Definitely. Yeah. No, and I definitely agree. How about you, Sarah? What do you think?
Well, I think like just looking at like just Anne Boleyn's song, and knowing like who was all in the background telling her you need to do this stuff and get I mean, she even mentions her father is like, hey, you should go ahead and get ahead. I think because a lot of people look at it from a modern lens, that we go, oh, well, she should have done something differently. So, but the song gives her some agency, and like she could have controlled some of her actions while still reminding everybody that she's a woman in the 1500s. She doesn't have a lot of control. And when she tries to exert control, there you go.
Definitely. Yeah. How about you, Rachel?
I would say, as far as, let's see, I'd written some notes down about this. I would say, like, I think it's interesting that since it is a feminist-based show. I mean, it's interesting that you never see Henry on stage, and probably the best example I would say is, like, I'm thinking about, of course, Anne Boleyn's song. They're talking about how was she blameless? No, unfortunately she brought some of it on herself, because she did get a little bit overconfident, I think. And I think it's interesting in that song how the other queens are singing back up, and they're kind of being like a Greek chorus in a way, as far as they're saying all the reactions of what she actually went through back then. Like, everybody was absolutely scandalized in reality.
Viral.
when she said, "Oh, I wish all Spaniards were at the bottom of the sea." So they're like, "Oh my God, you wanted Catherine of Aragon dead? What?" So I think in a way it's her song is fun, but it's kind of like, well, you didn't deserve to die for that, but maybe you should have reined it in a little bit.
No.
I'd say that, loving that song.
Yeah. How about you, Lauren? What do you think?
I definitely think it helps. And it also shows that the show hasn't been completely skewed towards all the women were perfect little angels, which brings more truth to the other parts of the show.
Definitely. And one of the things, like, I think each and every one of the songs, like Catherine of Aragon's song, like, in and of itself, like, it tells such a great perspective of her side of things, which is she came to meet this guy, Arthur, to marry Arthur, and then she was essentially kidnapped. And when Arthur died, and then, told, oh, well, you're going to marry his brother instead.
Who's 6 years younger than you, and you're a teenager when you get married. Yeah.
And, like, it just comes down to, like, so many of the things. So I definitely connect a lot with Catherine, even though, there are so many other things. So how about the other women? Do you think, like, for example, let's throw Parr into it. We really haven't talked about Catherine Parr at all. Where is she was forced to marry this guy that she didn't love, didn't want to marry. She didn't speak up for herself either in that regard. Does that make her more, I guess, or more or less of a heroine in this context? And what do you think, Sarah?
She talks about she survived. She did what she had to do to survive. Henry was her third marriage. She's basically, he just was like, hey, you. And when she, like, in reality, when she tries to, like, express her agency in regards to, like, religious matters, things like, she's a writer, and women didn't do that back then. He used the threat of death to kind of get her to fall in line, and she's like, fine, I'll do that to survive. So I think that showing, because she is the least talked about, to be honest. There's a reason that she survived. She didn't get divorced, or she didn't get killed, because she played the game. She knew she had to play the game. So
definitely.
And she got who she wanted after he died. She got who she wanted.
Oh, yeah.
So that was good.
Did anybody else have any thoughts on Catherine Parr?
Well, like in her song, she even talks about you can't say no to the king. I mean, he's this huge figurehead, and like if you think about it, that probably would have caused so much damage for her in society had she tried to say no.
Definitely.
I
I
would
mean,
also
women
add
who said
on.
no, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would also add on that she might be the most advantageous out of the wives because by then everybody knew Henry's reputation about what was happening to the queens and everything. So she was smart enough to say, okay, this is what happens to the ones that stood up against him. I need to survive. Like she says in the song, I have to survive this. So she was smart in that way, I would say.
Definitely. How about you, Lauren? Do you have any thoughts?
I definitely think it takes strength to be like, this is not what I want to do, but I have to do this dumb thing and marry this stupid king to survive.
Yeah.
So just because it's, yes, I married the king, whatever, it's still I'm doing what I have to do to survive, and in a way that is heroic.
Definitely. Well, and one thing I do want to say is for the people watching, if you have any questions, any thoughts, please let us know. We want your thoughts and opinions, as well as any questions you have. We are all big fans of Six, so we would love to hear from you. But that being said, we've talked about how this is a feminine show, and feminism is a big part of it, and how the women were allowed to tell their story without that male gaze. I would make the argument, though, that Six is not just for females. It is also for men. So why do you think that men should give Six a chance?
So when I actually went to see it, I took my friend, my guy friend with me, and he really enjoyed it. I think a big part of what can help with that is just the music. It's got such good music. It's so fun to listen to.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sarah, what do you think? Why do you think men should give Six a chance?
Well, honestly, if they care anything about like how women feel and what they deal with, this is a great way to kind of go, here's some history, and guess what, your girlfriend or your wife or your sister may still feel like that. But the music, I think the whole idea of it being this rock concert, that it does help draw some men in. Now, there are men who are going to be like, I love musicals, I'm coming to see it, and no matter what. But for your average guy, like, there's so much that can offer, that can be offered to them to make them interested. So
definitely. How about you, Rachel? What do you think? Why should men?
I agree with what everyone said so far, but I'd also say if you enjoy theater at all, I mean, I have plenty of, growing up doing theater and given my job right now, there's plenty of guys that I know that love and enjoy theater. And it's just an evening overall. It's such a fun, unique way of presenting what can be sometimes a very complicated portion of history in 90 minutes. So from the fun, lighthearted point of view, I would say that's why they should see it. It's and like I mentioned earlier, it's such a good introduction. It's like, yeah, this is kind of a Cliff's Notes version of the Wives. Go and learn about the Wives further from here and have a good time for over 90 minutes while we're in the theater.
Definitely. How about you, Lauren? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what everybody says. It's fun. It's high energy. When you go, it's not like, I know some people are, I don't want to go to the theater. It's going to be dramatic and it's going to be sad, and it's fun and high energy, and everybody should see it.
Definitely. Now, one thing that Six does have is it has a huge legacy. A lot of people have been talking about how we had our first two non-binary actors win Tony Awards, but in fact, it was Toby, the writer of this musical, who won the very first Tony as a non-binary person. And I think that is such a huge part of Six and its legacy, but also, Six was set to open the day of Broadway's close. And, those so many things. So why do you think Six means so much to so many people? Like, for me, like, it's hard to say exactly why it means so much to me, but yes. Exactly. But yeah, why do you think it means so much to the queendom, to the point where we have people cosplaying? They had an event at the Tower of London. I mean, it's getting a pro shot. What do you guys think? And Lauren, why don't you go ahead?
Also, like, for the cosplay aspect, they have actual patterns that you can buy that are so you can make the outfits yourself. Like, they've embraced the cosplay aspect of it. I just think it goes back to it's really relatable. The way they did marketing, it was because it was set to open on the day Broadway closed. There were stories about it, and they leaned into that with the marketing, and there was nothing really else going on, and it just caught on, and it was in the right place at the right time with the right things for everybody.
Definitely. How about you, Caitlin? I know you're big into Six. So what do you think? Why do you think everybody is big into Six?
Well, I think because it does this beautiful thing of combining, this rock concert feel with history. So, like, for me, I wasn't super knowledgeable about the Wives, and it allowed me to learn more and get more interested in it, while also enjoying this amazing music, these beautiful costumes, just this whole really cool show. And so I think just having that beautiful combination just like it hits the right spot.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Rachel? Why do you think Six means so much to so many people?
I would say a lot of different things. I mean,
oh no.
Okay. We'll get her answer when she gets back. But how about you, Sarah?
I mean, just the differences in music. Not every song is the same style. So you have that diversity of music. You also I think people can see themselves in the cast. There's not like what Hamilton did, where you didn't have just a specific type of person playing these characters. It was every ethnicity, every sexuality. I mean, I know, like, Toby, even they filled in as Catherine of Aragon in West End at one point.
Yeah.
So anybody can be a part of this and see themselves in it. So, like, I can't wait for it to become, like, open to schools, high schools and colleges, because they're gonna run wild with it. So,
and touching and also on that, it's the first time that they've allowed not just women of different ethnicities, but also women of different sizes to play these roles. And I think that is huge, because and we're actually doing a panel somewhat about cross casting at Dragon Con this year with diversity, but size inclusion is still something that is not done enough and in Broadway. And from the audience to the stage. And I think that also means a lot to people. Anyway, Rachel, you got cut off when you were answering. So what were you doing?
I don't know what's going on. I keep popping in and out like a bunny rabbit out of a hat. So I'm going to say this real quick before I disappear again. I would say what draws people to Six is it's catchy. It's very empowering as far as the story of women. These becoming the odds in was a ridiculously restrictive time back then. It's colorful. It's bright. The dancing is amazing. The story itself is good. It's pretty much everything you can hope for in a Broadway musical. But then also, going back to the roots of Broadway, there's also the lessons there, because like dating back to the dates of Broadway to Broadway with Showboat. I mean, that you really want to go back to the history of Broadway. There's always like the Rodgers and Hammerstein shows. There's always like the music was catchy, the story was catchy, but there was always a lesson to be learned. And I think that's what Six does so well. It combines all wonderful elements, but you learn something as well.
Definitely. Now, the music of Six. Everybody talks about how it's a rock musical, and it absolutely is. It's a concert and a musical all in one. And Sarah, I think it was you were talking about how Aragorn was Beyonce and during her Lemonade tour.
Yeah. I'm such a nerd about the stuff that I will Google everything possible. So of course, when I first heard it, I looked up like, okay, what are the song styles? Because like Anne Boleyn is heavily Lily Allen, and if you've ever heard Lily Allen, you go, well, that sounds like Lily Allen singing on the stage. But you have like influences of Adele and Ariana Grande and Nicki Minaj and Alicia Keys. So I mean, that's just brilliant that they were able to bring that in, but then it's not overly just those people. You find other elements of other songs. So
definitely. One thing I think that's really interesting about the music is like I think we all know the legend of Green Sleeves and its correlation with Anne Boleyn, and whether or not that's historically accurate or not. I think it's really interesting how that weaves in and out of the theme of the musical.
That techno Green Sleeves.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really interesting. And I think that that's one of the things that adds to its success is the recognizability of its music. And, it comes down to like, when I hear Sorry Not Sorry, the first thing that I think of is Demi Lovato. Okay. And she said, and, so I guess for me, that's a big thing. What do you guys think? Do you think the modern correlations of the music are a good thing? Do you think it helps build the queendom up more? What do you guys think?
I think it does. It helps. It makes the song slightly more familiar. Whereas when you think of your typical Broadway song, you're like, oh, that's not something, I can sing along in the car to or anything. And this is completely sing-alongable too.
My 3-year-old sings along to it. I mean,
really? that would be awesome. You should video
the Heart of Stone song. I could hear her in the background going, when they're in the car and stuff. I'm like, get it.
Definitely. Well, one of the what do you think, I guess, the main message of Six? What do you all think of that is? And you can make a lot of arguments for this, but I'd love to know, Caitlin, what do you think the main message of Six is?
To me, it feels like that you don't need a man. Like, you can do anything you want on your own. You don't need that guy. Like,
definitely. An audience, I want your guys' opinions too. What do you think the main message of Six is? And Lauren, why don't you go ahead?
I agree with Caitlin. You don't need a guy. And then also message of rewriting history to her story, as hopefully more people will take that just basic concept and run with it and do other her stories and share those.
Definitely. How about you, Rachel? Main message?
I would say the main message is probably just before I blink out again. Apparently, that's a habit tonight. I would say the main message is just probably like in the last song they talk about. Nothing is for sure. Nothing is for certain. There's so many different perspectives on Henry VIII and the Tudor period that don't believe everything, but take a little bit of everything and figure out what you want from the story, because there's so many different retellings of the story of the Tudors and the Tudor dynasty. So I would say that's, and above all else, believe the women, listen to the women, because they didn't have a voice back then. So it's nice that they get a chance to speak, as it were, with the show.
Definitely. How about you, Sarah?
For me, I mean, I agree with the other panelists, but also that no matter how long it takes, reclaim your story from who makes you out to be something else that you're not. So reclaim it.
Definitely. For me, and for me, I totally agree on all of those things. I also think that it's about women supporting other women and not having a man define you. And, that's where, like, for me, that her story comes into it, like, and instead of attacking each other, and spoiler warning to the end, but instead of attacking each other and, trying to find the person who was the most misused by Henry, instead saying we're all amazing women and we're all deserving of our place in history and our story in history, and therefore we're six, or we're the Royaling Stones. So for me, that is such an important part of Six, is in the message, and why I think Six is definitely a musical. It definitely has a story, and in some ways, that's what makes it almost better than a lot of musicals. It allows you to have your own thoughts and your own takeaways, because it's not, the Music Man marching on stage. It's deeper than that, and that's why I really do believe that Six has a different message for everyone. Now we're about 15 minutes from our final one. I would love if you guys have any questions, you leave them in the comments. Hold on one second. I gotta add Rachel back in. Apparently she froze.
Oh no.
Hi, Rachel. No, it's okay.
This is happening. This is very annoying. I'm just going to try and be short and quick with every answer from now on. Who knows when I'm going to pop back out.
We love hearing from you, and we'll deal with it just so that we can hear from you. So thank you for dealing with us and putting up with us.
Thank you for being so patient.
So I guess going back to like the competition aspect, just for fun. If one woman had to be number one, the center, the leading lady of the band, not based on her story and how mistreated she was, who should be the front woman and why? And Caitlin, I'm going to make you go first.
So I know I do Anne Boleyn as my costume, but for me it would have to be Cleves because her song is just like to me like the most like powerful, badass, like I've got this, it's all me. I'm gonna do it my way. I don't need a man. Like I love that song.
Definitely. How about you, Lauren? Who's your leading lady?
I'd say Catherine Parr because at least in the structure of the musical, she's the one who realizes like, wait, why are we fighting over him? We should, band together and think of something else. And so she essentially makes them a band. So I would say her.
Okay, definitely. How about you, Rachel?
I'm gonna say Anne Boleyn. I mean, not just because she's always been my favorite, even outside of Six. But I will say I noticed something very interesting when Six was playing at the theater that I work at. As far as if you based it on who got the biggest applause, usually every night it was Jane Seymour. So I always thought it should be Anne Boleyn, but apparently the audience always thought it should be Jane Seymour based on the reaction her song would get. Definitely. Go figure.
And Sarah, what do you think?
I'm stuck between Catherine of Aragon and Catherine Howard just because of how powerful their songs are and how catchy. Like they're, I've watched a couple of like YouTube videos of some of their performances, and that would show me and then listening to it, obviously, that would be like, oh yeah, I would want to like see them open and end the show. So
definitely,
this was a real concert. Yeah.
Okay, and do you think any of them should just go solo?
I think they should be kind of like Here Come the Mummies, where they each have their own projects and then they come together and do a concert for a group thing. And then they go back and do their own little solo projects and then come together again.
I personally like, and I know we haven't really talked about Jane Seymour a whole lot, and I'm kind of sad about that. I meant to bring her up, and unfortunately, like kind of like her story in the musical, she was the least like misused, so she was the least thought of in my mind. She
didn't get the chance to be a misused.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So
she is the one who I could see going solo. Like
her style is very different from the others.
No, and Sam Polly did an amazing job as Catherine Howard. Yes. Like
she broke me hearing her version on the Live album. I mean, I had heard the song before from the UK cast, the original cast, but hers just broke my heart. Yeah.
No, and for me though, if any of them were going to go solo, I would say Jane Seymour should go solo. But that being said, I think that they make an amazing group. Now, I guess for me, I want to know. There's a lot of debate. Obviously, Ex-Wives is the main song, the one they perform the most. But what is everybody's favorite song from the musical? Should I go first this time?
Asking somebody to pick a favorite child.
I know. For me, it's The House of Holbein. I think it's such a fun song that it doesn't have a deeper meaning, but it does. And especially when you getting the stage. I don't know, Sarah, if you've seen any of the stage clips of it. But
no, I really want to see it so bad.
There is one.
You definitely should try to look it up because they use UV light and they have like these fake ruffs on and the neon glasses, and it's like a full like Friday night at Dragon Con at like the 4 a.m. rave. Like
I love House of Holbein. I will say that. I love House of Holbein because I do remember being a teenager in the mid to late 90s. And I'm 41, so you kind of see where I'm at. But like when European house music was becoming huge and all, you had all the club kids and stuff. And it's like, there's the air horn, there's the, that kind of thing. Like I expect to see like, oh God, glow sticks. Yeah. So, but I love that song because it's so deep and the talking about the beauty standards then and thinking about the beauty standards now, inject poison in your face now to make your wrinkles go away. Put pee in your hair to make your hair blonder. Yeah.
Yuck. I'm sorry.
I know. Lighting your makeup to make you look better, yeah.
No, I totally understand. I just
Please use lemon instead of pee.
So is House of Holbein your favorite song or?
Oh my gosh. That is probably, if I had to pick one, it would be House of Holbein. Okay. Followed by Anna Cleeve's song because she's such a badass in that song.
How about you, Rachel? Favorite song?
I would say usually I'll just have the recordings on like when I'm doing housework, and I will say I guess based on the one song that I always sing along with no matter what I'm doing or what mood I'm in, I always sing along with "Don't Lose Your Head," and I'll sometimes even break out into the dance. So I would say that's my favorite by a landslide is "Don't Lose Your Head," which is Anne Boleyn's song.
Definitely. Well, one of our Facebook viewers, I cannot talk, said House of Stone, and that's why they're cosplaying Jane Seymour. I really hope that we will see you during our photo shoot. We've got a few people cosplaying from Six during our photo shoots. I hope you will be there.
I may need to get a cosplay together.
Yeah, but my brain is going.
You do.
I have time? I don't have time.
And Get Down was another great one. Now, how about you, Caitlin? Favorite song?
It's got to be Get Down. And I love the way, oh gosh, I can't think of her name. The original Cleeves on Broadway, the operatic little bit where she goes so high and it's so unique for her. And I love the way that happens.
Definitely. How about you, Lauren?
I'm torn between House of Holbein and Heart of Stone. I like Heart of Stone because it's easy for me to sing along to. But then I like House of Holbein because it's fun and you know.
Definitely. Now, I think that you guys know what my next question is going to be. But hold on. Brittany Mac. Yes, that was the yes, you're right. Favorite queens. Who is the favorite queen? I mean, I think mine. I'd hope mine is a little obvious by my garb. Mine is definitely Howard. Going in, it would have been Anne Boleyn, but in the context of Six, it's Catherine Howard. How about you, Caitlin? I know.
I do Boleyn as my costume, but I love Cleeves.
Lauren, how about you?
I think I'm going to go with Cleeves in the show.
Okay. Rachel?
It's got to be Anne Boleyn. And I will say the actress who's currently playing her on the Boleyn tour is absolutely fantastic. So if you get the Boleyn tour in your city, you're in for a really good time. She's just hysterical.
And Sarah?
Going based purely on just listening, Aragon.
Okay.
She is, I mean,
she's a powerhouse.
She is a powerhouse, and she's one of my. I mean, Anne Boleyn's my favorite as like historical, just because I also love Queen Elizabeth, but Aragon, yeah, she's powerful.
Definitely. Well, we are just about out of time. We've got 5 more minutes. So if you that being said, I would love if you guys would all tell us where we can find you online. If you're going to be at Dragon Con, where we can find you at Dragon Con. Caitlin, how about you?
So I will be at Dragon Con. I'm going to be at the photo shoot, definitely. I'm going to be in the parade group. And
Yes.
then I'm on Instagram, though I don't use it very much. Kate does cosplay.
Definitely. How about you, Lauren?
I'm on Facebook at Dragon Con. I'll be on one of the theater panels. I'll be in a couple panels, or not like on, but I will be attending several of the panels in the urban fantasy track for sure. I'll be at all of the late night. I'll be at one late night party every single day. I'll be cosplaying, and I'm going to try and make it to the theater photo shoot. I will not be in the parade because that requires getting up early, and I don't do that. I wish they'd have a later in the day parade.
It'd be too hot then.
It would be too hot.
I'm up until like 4 a.m.
As someone who has walked in the parade a few times, yeah, no, it's too hot. Yeah.
How are you, Rachel? Where can people find you?
Oh, let's see. Did you add me back in? Am I still on?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay,
I did.
I have an Instagram, and it's actually a title that has nothing to do with musical theater. My Instagram handle is Harley Girl.
Oh
no.
We'll get her back. Sarah, where can we find you online and at con?
Well, I just put my username. That is what I use on Twitter, Threads, now that I'm on Threads, TikTok, and Instagram. Because yes. So you can find me on there. I talk a lot about like writing and stuff because I'm
Anyways,
I'm trying to
sorry if I'm interrupting anybody, but I'm still working out the logistics of if I'm going to be able to come to Dragon Con this year or not. Cross your fingers.
Definitely.
But if I'm at Dragon Con, I will be probably cosplaying Chili Healer from Bluey again with my little girl who was Bluey. If you saw us last year, we gave out stickers. So
I actually think you gave me a sticker. Actually,
yeah, it was like the quotes from the show. Yeah,
no, definitely.
She was carrying around her bingo doll. Yeah. So but I will be around like the Apocalypse Rising track because my husband volunteers and runs panels there, and a lot of times historical fiction, alternate history. I love that track. So
definitely. Well, as it's been hinted at a little bit, we are doing panels at Dragon Con. We're not a track, and that is very important for us to note. We're not a track. We are collaborating with several official tracks on programming, including alternate history, Apocalypse Rising, sci-fi lit. We have all sorts of awesome things coming up. Gary, who is not on this panel, will be, and myself will be co-emceeing the Phantom sing-along. So if you guys are Phantom fans, now I know that I've seen a couple of things on a 6 sing-along, and I absolutely agree. 6 sing-along would be amazing. Please request it. It's not going to happen this year, unfortunately. But we would love to do it. Our goal here, and the reason we're doing these digital panels, is to inspire Dragon Con to add a theater track, whether or not we are associated with that or not. Time will only tell, or if it happens or not, time will only tell. But if you want more theater content at Dragon Con, please, come to our panels. Let the powers that be know that you value this kind of content. And yeah, hopefully the pro shot comes out soon. I don't think I looked it up earlier, and I don't.
What is a pro shot?
Pro shot is like Newsies. Okay.
Oh, okay.
One too.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know it had that specific name. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. It just means that it's professionally shot with cameras
Just
versus
a camera in the
out of
audience.
somebody's purse.
Right.
So yeah, no, but we can do a 6 sing along even without the pro shot. But I do think that 6 would be an awesome sing along.
I
And
know historical fiction does a lot of those kind of sing-alongs, so
6 would technically be Brit track. Henry VIII.
there'd be some fighting, I will say that. Yeah.
There was a discussion made this year. It is definitely Brit track. We are doing a online meetup, but we're actually also doing an AtCon meetup. And while we may not be doing a sing along per se, we are going to have some games and stuff we're going to play that are music based. So if you like to sing along with stuff, I would recommend coming to that. That is Thursday at 5:30. And last question, there is already a group photo shoot. It is linked in our group, which if you're not already a member, I know that some of our commenters are not. That's Dragon Con Theater and Performing Arts Lovers Unofficial. Will lead you to our group, and we're hosting it. We don't have a time yet. I've requested Friday at 1:30, but that's not confirmed yet. That being said, I hope you all had a wonderful time, and I hope some of you will consider joining us on our adventure on the interwebs. Until then, thanks again for coming to our panel, and stay awesome. Bye.